Alright, so we're looking a little bit homeless, so we all know what that means. I'm going to work on the Jeep. So I'm headed up to Rogers now. Have a couple things that we're going to be doing in preparation for this trip. We're still deciding whether or not we're going to go to either Disney or Birds. Both are hosting Halloween events this year. So trying to figure out which one we want to go to, which one has the best events, the best crowds, stuff like that, all going into factor. They're each about 2.5 hours away. So, but right now I'm going to be installing some new headlights for the Jeep. These are from Oxido. Check them out. I'll have a link in my bio down below. And then I'm going to be, hopefully, if we have enough time, dropping the lift kit. I measured it out and I have a 5.5 inch short arm lift kit, which is just too much for, it's too much for the driveline angles and stuff. So I'm gonna hopefully drop that lift down today. And goal is lift, trimming for the tires because they don't fit in the wheel wells very well. And I want to do that in a very clean way. And then new transfer case install, and then drive shaft install. So should be a pretty basic, easy going day, as long as everything kind of goes to plan. But definitely gonna be a long one. Definitely gonna be a long day, just a lot going on. So let's go ahead and hit the road and head on up there. Alright, we got a little bit of a start, but so I jumped under here, fired right up, we'll say. So, kind of assessing damage. Just pulled the drive shaft off. We've got a pretty bad pinion seal leak. Those were all hand tight. That's what holds the drive shaft to the yoke. This is, of course, completely blown up. Transmission leak, absolutely, because I had washed all this off and that is soaking wet. So transmission leak for sure. Got an engine leak up there, leaking oil. Front diff leak, and something I thought was really cool. Look closely at this arm. Notice the bend here in the front. It's on this one as well. There's a bend right here. Look at the indentation right there. Tell me what happened. I'll tell you what happened. It drooped too low and hit that. It actually hit the shock mount tab. Wild. Oh, it bent my unibody. Look at that. That upper control. The upper link to that. This is a 4.5 inch short arm. And there's a 1 inch block on the top as well, so it makes it a 5.5 short arm. And I have hit that and bent it. That bent the frame, or the unibody frame. Bent that over there. Now if you look at the rears, they've welded pipe to the middle where it's, I'm sure, done the same thing. But yep, crazy. Alright, it's been no more than 15, maybe 20 minutes. We're on the last bolt to take. There you go. We have one more bolt and that transfer case is going to drop. We have that holding up the transmission, and I have this here so that I can slide it straight back and hopefully drop it a lot easier than it used to without it just falling 4 feet to the ground like it did last time. So a little bit of knowledge from doing this once before is an absolute game changer. I honestly, like, just having jacks that actually fit in me not having to physically lift this stuff is a world of difference. Like, I can't even describe to you, like, if you've never worked without basic tools, you don't appreciate the tools you have. So we and having this nice open area, not my stuffy garage where it was freezing cold. I was trying to get heaters in places, and while also not just dumping oil everywhere, especially with the heaters around, and knowing, like, here I've got a tarp under this whole thing, so I'm not ruining his concrete. We're at my buddy Jake's house. That's why we're up in Rogers. I'm actually going to throw, I've got an oil pan, so I'm going to throw at the junction of the transfer case and the transmission, where I think I remember it dumping a bunch of fluid whenever this comes off. So, going back and forth on this last bolt. These are a bit of a pain. It's a super tight area. Another thing I found, the bolt for the transmission mount did not have a nut on the other side, so it was only the bolt holding it in place. So I don't know. I guess it shook out at some point on the last ride. But this, oh, and also don't forget, unhook all your wiring. I believe there's 2 wires and a hose that goes to it. Hose, I believe, is just a breather, so it's not the biggest deal, but why ruin stuff when you don't have to? So, here's this. I hit this with a hammer last time to get it off. I'm going to see if, since we have some stuff here, oh, it's catching over there. I'm going to try to move this jack a little bit so that I can put the oil pan under it a little bit better. Alright, hopefully the color isn't too blown out. So, I've got my catch little plate in place-ish, best I can. I'm going to tarp, make sure it covers the whole area, if not. And then we're going to try, this is low enough where it's not going to catch on anything. We'll try to just slide this straight back. Got a little movement there. Let me see, I'm going to drop this. Honestly, I think that it may be easier to just do it right here. Yep, there it is. Oh, we have one wire caught. It's not a wire. Yeah, but see, transmission fluid just dumping out of the back of the transmission there. So, I ended up with that little pan in the exact perfect place. But that went from a probably, I worked on this thing for no less than 6 hours last time I did this. And I just completely dropped it in under half an hour while trying to video stuff as well. That's wild. I tell you what, very grateful for Jake and his second jack. I'm very grateful for this jack. That was my dad's. Very thankful for him. But guess we're gonna throw the other one on. Alright, now I took a little break and I thought about it a little bit. And I swapped the jack up here, the orange jack that goes taller, so that's on the bell housing now. And I've got to figure out with this. So in order to have 2-wheel drive, I would need to adjust this linkage but truth be told, I don't feel like messing with it this time around, so I'm not going to. But if you do go from a 249 to a 242 or a 231, you now have two-wheel drive, and you would get that, I believe, by adjusting this, but I don't know enough about it to trust myself to do it, so I will not be doing that. But all you would do is take this bolt out, I believe it's a 12 mil, and slide it up and down this thinner part of the shaft here, and that would be how you get your two-wheel drive. I just won't have it, it's fine. But so, have my orange jack up here that goes a lot taller. That is sitting on my bell housing. Don't put it on your oil pan. Then this one doesn't go as tall. But so what we're going to try to do, we have it somewhat lined up to where the bolts are going to go through, or the studs are going to come through this and go through this little outer flange of the transmission. And so I'm going to jack this as high as it'll go, and so I believe it'll get it about here, and then I'll lower this down to it the best I can, and then just kind of wiggle it on. That's my guess. I have this floor jack as straight as it can be, so we're just going to do our best and try it. That's really all we can hope for. That's a best case scenario, not super expecting it to actually work out exactly like that, because I have a decent view of what's going on. We're going to tighten this. I wish I could take that nail out, shorten this, but okay. So one thing I'm already seeing, it would be ideal to have a second person just to hold this steady, but he's working on his own project. He's got a lot of welding to do, so I don't want to bother him. But so I'm going to try with one hand to hold this kind of steady, and with the other to lift it. We're going to have to trying to find kind of the pivoting slash balance point of this thing. I'll just split my head open on a screw. Sick. Yeah, just then, yes. It fell off the jack. So I had to, so I had to catch it and put it back. Nice. Hey, would you mind doing something for me? What's that? Drop the other jack.
Yeah. The orange one?
Yep.
How much?
Just trying to line these bolts up.
How do I, with this?
Twist it. Yeah.
Oh, you can twist it?
Yeah. It's
okay.
just like yours.
Better control twisting it.
Yeah.
Tell me when.
Keep going. I'm gonna put it on. A little bit more, if it'll go.
You get it as low as you can without dumping shit everywhere?
Yes, right there should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, get it from there.
Yeah, you can at least get it started.
having at least this as a brace.
Look at this. You got it.
Game changer.
Oh, shit, you don't
Still
even
using
need
a little knee, but
You're holding all of it up. The jack's not even under it anymore.
yeah, I'm just glad I don't have to.
You need to pull the ass end of it up a little bit. Rotate the tail up.
Rotate tail up. Okay. Well, the whole thing's gotta.
Yeah, right about there is straight on. That's why you're on it. You just gotta rotate to line up. Oh, we're dripping.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We're dripping. I'm gonna go up a little bit.
Okay, that's fine.
Am
I lined up?
No.
No.
Gotta rotate the tail up.
I think I did.
Well, your bottom bolts are hitting before the top ones.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying like I was clocked wrong.
No, you're clocked right. Don't let that drop on your fucking head.
There we go. That's so much better. Woo!
We're in.
We're in.
Penetration.
Gosh. I'll tell you what, that's the difference in a probably 6-hour job and a 45-minute job.
Well, that's the difference between having a floor jack or having a crouton.
That's still in my bed, by the way, if we want it.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. We had a crouton, a microwave as a jack stand.
Yeah.
God, what were we thinking? What was I thinking? I can't even blame you. We know the mastermind behind that one. Okay. This is a 1 1/8. We have to take this yoke off, trade it over to the other front Dana 30 yoke because we were mating. This, I believe, is out of a ZJ, but it has the same front yoke. But this yoke is obviously from my ZJ, and we have to change it to a XJ yoke. So this is a 1 1/8 socket. Sick. That should slide off. I don't know. I'll work with it. Alright. There it is. XJ yoke. It's got a little bit of dirt around it. It might be a ZJ yoke. I don't know. It's different though. Pull this off of here. I'm assuming it's the same 1 1/8. Yeah. Same 1 1/8. Just can't really get it all the way on there. There she goes. Probably the same thing, just gonna get a hammer more than likely if it doesn't just pop right off. And it didn't. But yeah, yep, just that. That's what makes up to my drive shaft. That rig. Alright, so right now I'm going to take that off, and we're going to measure the distance from full droop to full compression, and that way we're gonna have to take the spring and the shock off, but we're gonna measure the distance from full length to full compression, and that way we can get this drive shaft exactly where we need it to be. In order to do that, we have spring compressors. Yes, they are scary to use. No, I don't recommend it. No, I don't have it any other way. But at least we're not using zip ties, and these are actually like meant to pull the springs off of vehicles. I'm gonna film it just because this may be what sends me to the hospital. So we're gonna just go ahead and hop on it, I guess.
Now lift up on this?
Yeah, as soon as I can get my head out of it.
Normally you take the tire off, so it's...
That's sharp.
You can lift up on it like 6 inches. Normally the tire's not here and you can come straight out the side. Hey, look, now we can, well.
Should
Is that enough
fall
for it
off.
to, yeah, now you can, now pull the front out this way. There you go. That's only like a 1.5 right there. That's not very much.
Yeah, I thought it was a 1.
Are you videoing right now?
E. Not bad.
You can comment on that when you do your voiceover.
That's a 1 inch. Alright, so we have this spring out on this side. We left the shock in because that's going to be our limiting factor. We're not going to have to trim. Look at that. It just tucks it in. That has no spring in it at all. We're also going to take off the 1 inch puck from the top so it doesn't ride as high, and so hopefully it'll ride a little better. But 35s, this is a 4.5 inch lift. That tire's not even on the ground. Also, look how much droop this thing has. I'm not disappointed. Like at all. I'm gonna have to compress that spring, pull that. But, oh yeah, look, that tire's off the ground a good bit. Why is that the case? Does that not droop as much? Because look, this tire's not on the ground by like 1/2 inch. Then there's this one. Why is that the limiting factor? Why can that not? Is this just? That's. Shoot. Interesting. But yeah, literally, like there's no way, like there's no reason for me to trim like I thought I was gonna have to. Like, that's so much clearance. Here, watch, I'll put weight on it. It tucks that tire up in there. Hold on, let me just stand on the bumper. That doesn't hit. That's as low as I can make it go. And I've got tons of clearance. Great. They're tucked in enough. If it was pushed out, so when I do go with a different front axle, I'll have to cut. But it tucks up into that fender well perfectly. I am going to cut this just completely off just so I have a stubby kind of front bumper, but that's crazy. Alright, we decided to go ahead and start cutting the stubby bumper just because something for me to do. So one thing I did, I started with this. It's a DeWalt Fire and Rescue, and like it cut, but it's just cutting such a wide path that it's just harder to control, harder to get a straight line on it. And look how thick that blade is. I don't know if you can tell, but look at the difference between these two. I switched to just a strictly metal. This one, it says metal and wood. It's a bimetal, 10 tooth per inch. This is, I believe, this is 18 teeth per inch. And so it's a lot finer cut and cuts through so much faster. But, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stick it through just like that. Make sure I'm not gonna cut into the unibody. Safety squint it all the way up. Kept a pretty straight line. No cutting the unibody at all. It is perfect. We're gonna go. Now this part is gonna be a little bit tough. So I'm gonna go right on that line I was cutting. I'm gonna continue to go up because that seemed to cut really easily. Try to get this corner right here. Alright, so here's what I've come up with. I'm going to go at it from the top, line up with that initial cut. Yeah. I'm going to go above, lining up just with that initial cut. You have to kind of pull my grill a little bit out of the way. There's no wires there, so we're gonna put it right there. Just go to town. Nope. That is loose now. So now we got to figure out where we're gonna cut along this side. But what I did, cut this, cut the inside halfway, cut it going the other way, cut this how I showed you, then I went underneath, cut that, cut across the bottom of there. Apparently I don't think I had to do that, but it allows me to kind of bend this stuff where I want it, get it out of the way more. And actually, if I cut that off right there, this whole piece would fall and I could get in there better. So that's what I'm gonna do, because I was really trying to like force this down and out of the way, and it was just pinching in places. But if I cut, as you can see, if I cut that tab right there on the bottom, from underneath, I can pull that whole corner off and then cut straight across and have it just a straight line. Should be even with that and pretty even on the sides. And then I'm gonna roll this up right here, so that way make sure it never hits the tire. It should never hit the tire, but anyway. I also have no idea what these little things are. I just unplugged them. That side was already unplugged, and then this one was just sitting there. I assume it's some sort of crash sensor, but I really don't want to blow airbags off-road. Alright, just like I thought, immediately fell like this. At the very least, can be able to fold it out of the way completely. It's still, there's like tack welds from the factory. I would call it like a tack weld or a seam weld, but that's all that's holding this in, and they're right here. But so just gonna bend that up out of the way. It's the same thing as what's right here. Block that with my hand, but right there. Yeah, no idea what the sensor is. I'll probably look up what that part number is, but it says like this way faces forward on it. So I'm assuming crash sensor. But yeah, just gonna continue cutting along here. And one thing, if you're doing this, make sure look in behind everything before you cut it. Make sure you're not cutting wires. I have not, thank goodness. And I've been very careful about not cutting wires, but there is a wire harness right above this. There is a little wall of metal between it, but you don't want to not have headlights because you cut a wire. So just look first before cutting anything, especially with stuff like this. But so we're going to cut across all the way, and then going to cut up to it. But shouldn't be too hard, but we're just going to hop on that. I'm not going to make you watch that anymore. Alright, there it is. One thing I do want to point out, careful about is your sway bar, because this is where that plate ended that you just cut. And so you want to go underneath like this, cut, and then round up that way. And make sure you're not cutting into your unibody. So this is what it looks like now. Opened up that whole corner, and it is now a stubby front bumper. Fender is still supported, no move in that. That is still very strong. My headlights actually were supposed to be mounted up here, but they're all broken. We're gonna switch these out to LEDs though, so it should at least make them at least worth keeping. But I really like the look of that. I'm gonna probably cut this down a little bit just because it's sharp. but it really doesn't matter. And the inside looks really good. I like that. I don't know if it's y'all's cup of tea, but we went from this side's bent. This is another big factor as to why I'm doing it. I hit that stump like I said. So we're going from that, and this is the tape marking the inside of, that is where the line of the unibody is. And so you don't want to cut, I'm going to cut the middle of that tape. And then this will be the after, and that is clean. I like that a lot. But yeah. So eventually what my plan is, I'll cut the core thing out of this, move, slide like some sort of like, here I'll just show you on his. This is a lot more ease of access than mine. So basically I'm just gonna make these little horns like this. So since he has a frame, his come from the factory just like welded to the frame. Mine is going to slip inside, and then it will bolt on the bottom, and I believe on the side as well. And then from there, mine will not be up like this, and eventually he's gonna make his stop here. He's gonna cut right there. He's gonna put a winch plate, and I'm doing the same thing. This is what I'm talking through what his plan is. So he'll have a winch plate. Keep in mind the horns are now flat, and so it'll actually be a little bit lower than where I'm gonna set it. But so the winch plate will then go on top of there, and he'll probably have a little piece of metal underneath it as well to attach the winch plate to. But that is basically my plan with the ZJ as well. And it's just a good, having a stubby bumper also allows a lot more clearance, pulling up to rocks and stuff like that. So instead of, here, perfect example. So when he pulls up to something, for him, bumper would hit a high rock first. If he didn't have anything here, the tire would be the leading factor. And so that's what it's gonna be like on the Jeep. And so another great example, my truck. Let's say I pulled up to a big rock, it's this high. That's gonna smack the middle of my bumper. Take out the bumper, I'm not gonna be able to climb it. I'm gonna be just pushing my bumper up against the rock. If I didn't have a bumper, I would easily, the first thing up until here on the outside that's gonna be leading is gonna be that tire. And so I'm able to just pull straight up to rocks and stuff like that. And up to here, the first thing that's gonna hit is the tire. So, but that's the idea. That's the point of doing a stubby bumper. But I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting into the other side. All right, we are at full droop right now. That'll be, we're gonna measure the length from transfer case to U-joint, and then I'm gonna droop it all the way down, and again measure that same transfer case to U-joint, and then for the drive shaft we're gonna have to cut it, re-weld it, make sure that we are gonna be within those ranges, so I'm not gonna overextend that drive shaft. So that'll be what we do next. I won't bore y'all with that. But man, this thing's, there's so many little things that I'm just doing as I go because I'm bored. But I'm so surprised that I'm not having to cut more. I absolutely thought I was going to. I do eventually want to replace these rear shocks. Right now they're Ranchos. The Bilsteins up front have a lot more droop to them, and so if I replace them wow, if I replaced them with Bilsteins, or I mean if I even replaced both of them with Foxes or something, just that has more down travel and more overall length of travel, I think that would help me a lot with articulation. But I want you to see, I'll walk around this way, I want you to see how steep the angle of these short arms are. Look at that. That is straight up and down. That's wild. But so ideally, eventually I'll do a 3-link up front, which would be a lot better angle because it would go to the cross member for the lower, and so it'd be that angle versus that's about a 45-degree angle, versus at full droop I would be I don't know, not more than a 20-degree angle. So that's the benefit there. Perfect example of that. But man, I've got a lot of work to do this thing still. But look at how just like open this space is. It's so cool. I love this thing more and more. The more I work on this thing and actually put time into it, the more glad I am he talked me into getting this thing, because I was very skeptical, I'm not gonna lie, because I just don't, I mean, you know, you've seen the channel, I don't have a ton of money to throw into these kind of projects, and so I mean, clearly I'm making my own stubby bumper out of the sheet metal material that they gave me. It's already crumpled in the middle, so I probably at some point when I actually do put a winch on this, I'm gonna have to probably cut this middle section out, put an actual plate in, so that way it's not already damaged from that little side impact we had. But he's giving me a lot of good ideas, like replacing this with like an angle iron, and then going into some sort of new fender, and then going into either an exo or an endo cage. But man, I'm gonna quit talking. I'm gonna start working on this thing again, because we're about to run out of daylight. All right, we were about to finish up the night. He's welding up that front drive shaft. You can't even see the Jeep. Does that light turn on? It does not. Okay, well, Jeep's still up on jack stands. I'm gonna have to clear all the tools around it. Then go in here. I'm gonna show you where we're at with that drive shaft. All right, so here's our, how much we had to cut off, 2.25 inches. There's the starts of the welds. So we've test fitted it, and it perfectly fits right where it should. It fits at full droop and has about a 1/2 inch of, or full, when the body of the Jeep is fully down, we have about a 1/4 inch, and that'll be plenty. We may have 1/2 inch, but we have plenty of room there. And then we have about 1.5 inches at full droop. And so even if it hyperextends going down, we'll be fine as far as the drive shaft goes. And for the, we have the spring completely off, and so it will never be able to compress down as far as it is now. And so it could never go as far down as the, where we have the 1/4 inch of slip left. So we should be completely golden. This is our whole setup, and we only had from, this was the slip we had from here to there. Like that was all this was able to move, and it was on that fitting right there, so it just grenaded itself. But we were able to strip it down for parts, and he ended up, I believe he ended up throwing some stuff on the Jimmy from it, so worked out well. And I got that drive shaft for, how much was that? I think I got it for like, I actually didn't pay for that. I got that for free, so I'm not too tore up about it. The transfer case was a pain. I did have to pay for that. New transfer case was $200. The old one I got for $60. So this was the $60 one. Then the new one that I paid $200 for. It's a lot nice. It looks a lot better. It was also out of a ZJ, I believe. It's another 242, so it's the exact same transfer case, but I think that's been rebuilt, so worth a little bit more. But excited to get all these rigs out on the tray. So we did not get completely done yesterday. I had a couple parts I needed and everything else, and it got dark and tired, ready to go home. So we are coming back out. This is just the next day. I got ATF fluid, gear fluid, because we're gonna weld that front diff. I've gotten U-bolt straps for my drive shafts, because could not find those for the life of me, and a couple other things to just finish up this project. But should be completely done today. It is currently 3:20, and I'm about 20 minutes from his house, so
I'm gonna go ahead and just get back to work to it and let y'all know what all we get done today. Alright, now we already have this side on here, so I'm going to show you just how to do it on the other side. For this one, I'm going to move the battery out of the way just for ease of access, because the hole is right there in front of where the battery would normally sit. And so you're going to take the collar, that's what I'm going to call this little plastic piece, that is on your factory light. So all you're going to do, just slide it directly in, push it in, then you're going to tighten the collar just like that. It just is one click this way. Door shut itself. And then just take in your factory wiring harness, click it in. That's all it takes.